Hiimmarymary is a completed web horror ARG that began in 2016. It follows Mary, a girl who knows only her own name and that she's in her parents' house, which she is unable to leave. Today on the Panopticon Theatre, we'll be analysing this series and delving into its fantastic representation of its themes. Let's go over the series first. I do recommend watching it yourself if you haven't yet. It's pretty short and very effective. We'll also be looking a little at the Blogspot and Twitter accounts. Mary finds herself in what she thinks is her parents' house, or a copy of it, since some things apparently don't check out. The doors and windows are sealed, she can't get out, and she hasn't seen anyone else. She has internet access but seems to be alone even on there. She records herself on a camera she found but refuses to show her full face. She's shy. The food restocks itself somehow, and everything seems to be working, but she's entirely alone, at least during the day. At night, she's disturbed and harassed by multiple entities. In episode 2, Dislikeness, Mary finds a picture of herself and says she doesn't look good in it. Later, when in the bathroom, a figure appears in the mirror. A woman with a feminine mask and a black dress who poses sensually as she laughs. Mary recoils, and we cut between this footage and her cutting up the photo she found of herself as if trying to fix it. Text at the end reads, "I want to break the mirrors." Very, very faintly above this can be seen the text, "She's so much prettier than me." It's pretty straightforwardly stated here that Mary has some body image and self-esteem issues. This sets up the whole concept of the series, Mary's personal issues reflected in the monsters that haunt her. By episode 3, Mary's bored and exhausted from not being able to sleep at night, after she was harassed by a shadow figure at the end of her bed. Now she stays awake during the nights instead. She surrounds herself with lights at night, but she's hearing an odd noise. Searching around for it, she finds a shadow figure. She tries to investigate the basement, but there's something down there. In episode 5, Worse, she does go down there with a torch. We see a new monster. A woman in a black veil that Mary seems to be the most afraid of. She chases Mary, who barricades herself in the bathroom while the veiled lady bangs on the door constantly, until time suddenly jumps to daylight. By this point, we've seen 4 distinct monsters. The masked lady, the shadow thing, the moving darkness, and the veiled lady. Mary continues to struggle through the days, finding things to do with herself and trying to develop ways to deal with the monsters in the house. Despite her claims, however, she's clearly in bad shape. She's constantly awake trying to avoid the monsters, and things are getting worse for her. One night though, she's running from the veiled woman when she opens the door and falls straight into water in what appears to be a large lake. She wakes up after crawling to shore in a peaceful woodland area she names the garden. She explores for a while, enjoying the quiet, and said she'd rather stay here. However, she gets taken back to the house suddenly, where the veiled woman tells her, "You're making it worse." On Twitter, she explains that she thinks the outside area isn't real, but she keeps trying to access it. She misses the peace and quiet. She's able to get back a few times, but the more she goes, the more she misses it afterwards. Incidentally, she's been at the house for about a year at this point. Then we get to Do Not Touch, in which Mary's camera transforms into a head mount after teleporting around a bit. Then she sees an image of the lake on her laptop, but as she goes to touch it, the darkness flickers out. She runs to grab a knife, then taunts the darkness, which retaliates by turning off all the lights. Messages of self-disgust flash on the screen as Mary chases and tries to grab the ball of darkness. Finally, she charges at it and presses her hand to the door, laughing before turning her hand and screaming as she realizes the darkness is in her palm. Mary walks a little into the dark house and sees the masked lady standing outside the mirror laughing. She walks to Mary, then distorted choking sounds can be heard. The camera cuts around as all the various different monsters harass Mary through the night, until she finally passes out and wakes on the floor the next morning. On Twitter, she explains the night left her physically sick and in pain. The garden starts showing up more frequently, and Mary continues to stay there as long as possible. Mary's tweeting about how she's getting annoyed with the veiled lady chasing her all night. Then in hide and seek, the veiled lady stops her and asks to play a game, in which she'll answer questions unless she can find Mary first. Mary gets a few vague answers.
Who are you? Where is this place? Who am I? What do you want? Understand what?
You are worthless. You are repulsive. That you are worthy of happiness.
She then berates Mary for failing to hide well and tells her, "You made us." Mary spends almost every night in the garden as much as possible. She's losing track of time and sounds more hopeless, and her photos of the garden are increasingly distorted. But on the last night of 2017, as time takes over to 2018, suddenly Mary is able to see the replies and other people on Twitter and her YouTube comments are turned on. In check-in, she explains that things are more manageable with the garden, but it's clear that she's still struggling deeply. She no longer tries to figure things out about herself and just wants to stay in the garden as much as she can. At this point, in Collection, she reveals her Blogspot, on which she uploads a few files she found at the house. We'll cover them all together after we finish going through the videos, as they mainly provide backstory. Despite her struggles, seeing the comments from others and interacting with actual people lifts her spirits greatly. However, she also discovers stuff she brings back from the garden disappears once she puts it down. She brings a rock she names Dwayne through, but loses it when she sets it down. In the garden, she starts seeing a woman in white. She tries to speak with her, but can only hear ringing, buzzing noises. The woman does try to speak, but Mary can't hear her. Reading her lips, it seems that she's warning Mary that she isn't safe and she needs help, and that this place is not good for her. Mary is distressed by her and leaves. Later in the garden, she throws up, and on Twitter says she's been feeling nauseous a lot. Her arm also hurts where she grabbed the darkness. During this period, a message appears in the Blogspot source code. Mary seems to be unable to see it, but we can. It appears to be a message from the lady in white in the garden. She says she is like the others, but she wants to help Mary, and that she's too weak to fight them alone. She's trying to reach out and help Mary, but the other monsters are preventing her. She instead reaches out to the viewers to convince Mary to trust her. She sends a few more messages to the viewers across the series, encouraging them to help Mary. Then, per various requests, Mary does a livestream in the house at night. She says the monsters haven't ever actually hurt her beyond just saying nasty things or laughing or growling at her and making a lot of noise. During the livestream, she gets cold and moves away to get a blanket, but it gets suddenly quiet, and when she opens the door, she gets attacked. Apparently, the woman touched her for the first time, and apparently told Mary that the viewers were going to hurt her. She begs the viewers to let her go to the garden despite their insistence that it's bad. She runs a Twitter poll, and the viewers vote for her to go to the garden. A couple months pass before she posts another update saying things are bad. In rain, the veiled woman is just standing still in front of the cupboard through which Mary accesses the garden. She grabs Mary when she steps through, but she breaks away. Mary says something is wrong with the garden. It's a generally less friendly place, with bad weather and broken items around. The monsters on the house side are worse. The shadow figure is much larger, and the veiled woman seems more comfortable to physically grab Mary now. But Mary continues to refuse to acknowledge the problems, retiring repeatedly to the garden despite the freezing weather. Mary plans another livestream for Halloween 2018, but suddenly her connection to the outside world is cut off again, and she is alone on the internet once more. The veiled lady tells her the other people were never real. She cannot access the garden, and the veiled lady continues to physically and verbally attack her, and tells her to give in to her. She attacks and beats Mary, then throws her down the basement stairs. Mary finally concedes and says that she is nothing. She pleads for it to end, but the lady breaks her hand and tells her there is nothing but pain left for her. Hopelessness truly sets in for her at this point. Mary doesn't post on Twitter. A significant amount of time passes before she uploads the last 8 months. She's barely moving, her hair and teeth are falling out, and she alternates between catatonia and hysterics. She doesn't really try and fight back or escape the monsters anymore. The lights hardly work, the food isn't always replenishing, and the water's bad. She can't get to the garden. She can't take it anymore and is ready to ask the veiled woman to end it. She plans a time to ask her. She's been in the house for around 4 years at this point. Anagnorisis. This word means the point in a piece of media where the lead recognizes the true form of another character's identity, or the real nature of their situation, the point of critical revelation. Mary's resigned. She confronts the veiled woman and asks her to kill her, but the veiled lady says she doesn't have that power, and Mary must do it herself. Mary struggles to bring herself to do it, but just as she's about to, she hears notification sounds go off, the viewers, encouraged and helped back in by the lady in white, reaching out. She rushes to her laptop to find the people have returned, and she confronts the veiled woman's lies and contradictions. In the face of this, the lady flees, and Mary chases, but the lady attacks her and she appears in the garden. She doesn't want to be there, and sees the moving darkness following her. She confronts it too. She worries she'll be stuck in the garden to die, and she doesn't want to die anymore, now that she knows the lady was lying. She tells the darkness it left something in her when she touched it, and it's been getting worse since then. She acknowledges that she needs help, and the situation is all wrong. She asks the darkness for help, but it doesn't answer, and as she walks away, it attacks her. She sees the nightmares of the past years, the darkness growing within her, until a voice calls out to soothe her, saying, "You've got us now." It's the woman in white, and she tells Mary that it was Mary who made this world and Mary who can leave it. She explains how to do so using Mary's current control of the darkness. Mary figures out how to leave the garden at will. The veiled woman flees her as she returns. She heads to the basement and shoves the veiled woman away as she attacks, confronting her lies again and banishing her, saying,
"Get out of my house. Get out of my house. Get out of my house. Get out of my house."
"Get out of my house, get out of my head." The darkness of the house retreats. Mary finds the rock she brought back from the garden. The door is wide open. In Goodbye, Mary starts getting herself back together. The house is quiet. The monster in the mirror disappears, and Mary only sees her own face. She invites the shadow to sit with her, and tells it things will get easier. She finally goes outside. Mary thanks everyone for their help and for sticking with her even though she didn't listen to them. She thinks the monsters will come back, but this time she's ready to fight back, and she encourages anyone struggling with their own house to keep fighting too. She's not alone, and neither are you. The darkness still rides with her, but she leaves to go look for someone to help her.
Goodbye.
The Blogspot contains a few additional pieces of content that provide a little bit of backstory. Mary posts a few pictures and drawings and stuff from her notebook, but the main interesting stuff is the SD card files she posts. The first clip is dated March 12, 2016. It's a clip of Mary and another girl having a conversation. The other girl is likely named Liz. It's not clear exactly what they're talking about, but Liz tells Mary she can talk to her anytime if she needs. The second clip is dated March 20th. It's Liz and Mary again, and they seem to be in a car, but the audio is distorted. They're seemingly talking about someone who Mary likes but hasn't approached, and Mary yells at Liz when she tries to encourage her to do so. She apparently sees something outside, but the audio gets very distorted. The third clip is June 27th. It seems to be in a car again, and fake music can be heard, meaning they're probably at a party. It also sounds like it's raining. Mary is uncomfortable in her dress, but Liz says someone named James likes it. Mary refutes that, and says he hates her. Liz tries to get Mary to tell her what's going on with her, saying it looks like Mary's knuckles are hurt and Mary has been crying. She pushes, but Mary yells at her, saying she doesn't need help, and she accuses Liz of talking about her behind her back. Liz kicks her out of the car, upset. The next is June 28th, the next day, and only a few weeks before the channel upload started, and likely a few days before she wakes up in the house, considering she says in the first video she's been there about a week. The audio is silent for a few minutes before it cuts in with Mary crying and apologizing for what she said to Liz. It sounds like she's outside in the rain, possibly in a forest. Mary begs that she's sorry and wants to go home. She begs for Liz to answer her. It's likely she's talking on the phone, probably to answer phone, since she doesn't wait for responses, and because she says Liz won't pick up. The audio cuts out as a roaring noise begins, and she says, "Liz, I just saw that." This gives us a little insight into Mary's history. She pushed her friend Liz away when she tried to help her with her struggles, and left alone, fell into the deep depression that the series covers. We can see her various mental enemies in these clips too. Her body image issues and her discomfort in the dress, feeling like everyone hates her and is against her, and of course her overall depression. She's clearly been struggling for a while, since Liz has noticed it and tried to help her, but it's likely that this incident caused Liz to pull away and leave her alone, leading into the series itself. The overall concept of the series is very clear. The horror is held in Mary's mind. That's not to say it's imaginary, rather that it's a physical representation of her mental state. Let's first talk about the house. The house, inescapable and deeply familiar to Mary as her family home, if not exactly the same, is her mind. She's trapped by her own psychology, unable to quite literally open up. It's quiet and lonely and haunted by dark corners and personal anxieties manifest as monsters. And the lights only work sometimes. You can't always feel safe inside your own mind. Even when they're on, she's still tormented by her fears, the thoughts that always make their way to the forefront. Mary is an insecure and fragile person, and the monsters represent her main insecurities and concerns, hardening her within her psyche. You could tie each of the monsters to a specific issue if you wanted, though specifically which one could be debated. The Mirror Woman is the most obvious. She represents Mary's appearance issues, her belief that she's ugly and therefore unworthy. She's the most straightforward of the demons Mary faces. The Shadow figure, on the other hand, is one of the more unclear ones. It doesn't tend to attack Mary directly, just hovers around her, usually while she's doing other things like sleeping or on the laptop. It usually also seems to cause the self-deprecating text to appear in the videos. It may represent regret, as it always follows her around and lurks even when she feels safe. It also may represent anxiety around other people. But the fact that it grows larger does more suggest regret to me, as Mary's regrets and focus on them grows more as time goes on. Actually, we kind of see the other monsters reflected in the Blogspot files, but not really this one. It's possible the regret she feels is because of the incident with Liz, which appears to be the triggering incident for this period of severe mental health issues. The Veiled Woman is the most physically dangerous of the monsters, the only one to actually hurt Mary. It's likely she represents Mary's self-loathing and depression, and she was the one to directly push Mary to nearly end it all. The fact that she's veiled and likely blind or can't see well possibly represents not being able to see the truth of situations and being blinded by self-hate. The darkness is pretty mysterious. It's the only non-humanoid one, and Mary was able to redirect its power onto the other creatures and free herself. It was also the only one to appear in the garden, but when Mary touched it, it allowed the others to grow stronger and took root inside her. It may possibly represent the overall mental state, or depression or anxiety in general. It could also represent Mary's mental strength, which when powering her fears makes her get worse, but when redirected by her, allows her to take back control of her mind. The fact that both it and the veiled lady seem to start off in the basement may represent the fact that these feelings, when present, may be buried deep and hidden within you until something lets them out for everyone to see. And then there's the garden. Mary, quite contrary, how does your garden grow? The garden is safety and solace from the monsters of her mind, a place where she can go to feel peace, but it quickly turns into a crutch, something she relies on in desperation. She spends most nights in the garden to escape from the house. However, it's clear she's still struggling. The garden isn't a fix, it's just a temporary escape from the problems instead of actually trying to confront them. It's analogous to things like alcohol or drugs or other forms of addiction. They provide a temporary relief from mental strain, and some people who are suffering rely on them more and more, though they'll never be able to actually fix the root problem. It may also represent mental health aids in the form of medication, which can help but require other sources beyond just the medication itself to actually aid the real issue underneath. Thus, as vices do when used in excess over time, the garden begins to lose its ability to help. It becomes a darker, grimmer place that slowly hurts her, but nonetheless Mary keeps returning, desperate to escape the house and its monsters. The longer she indulges in her vice, the worse she gets, and the more she struggles back at the house, and eventually she's unable to rely on it anymore. Notably, she says on Twitter once that she never actively leaves the garden, and there's no door out. She only leaves by being brought back to the house out of her control. This supports our addiction metaphor. You can choose to engage in it, but you can't choose to disengage. You can only wait for the alcohol to fade from your system or the drug trip to end. You need to make an active effort to cure your addiction, but to actually improve your mental state instead of just relying on medication to cover it up, like Mary starts working towards at the end, and she's able to leave the garden of her own free will. The woman in the garden seems to represent the hope and happiness in Mary's subconscious, but Mary can't even hear her at first. Mary wants her out of her perceived safe place. It's not until the support of the others outside her gets through that she can finally understand the woman and accept her help. Though the woman is clear that it's Mary herself that needs to put the work in to get better. She acknowledges the problem and confronts it directly, she accepts help from others, and she begins her journey of fighting to regain ownership of her house. The hell Mary goes through in those 4 years in the house may have just been a horrifying representation of her mental state, but anyone who struggled with the same issues Mary fights knows just how mentally and physically taxing and painful they can be, and how soul-crushing it is to have to fight day after day after day, with no sense of reprieve and seemingly no way to escape. But Mary holds on as long as she can until she's pushed to the point of almost no return, until the people that care about her break through, and she's finally able to realize the things her brain is telling her are lies just meant to hurt her, not the real truth of the world. Because people do worry about her and care about her, and she's not ugly or worthless or a burden. But when your brain pushes that onto you over and over for years on end, it's beyond hard to fight back and realize that it's not reality. It's not Mary's fault the monsters are there, but she has to be the one to defeat them. It doesn't shy away from showing the repercussions of this long-term struggle either. The lashing out, the physical deterioration, the doing nothing for hours and days and losing track of time. Through boredom, exhaustion, sickness, and physical pain, Mary keeps going until she reaches that point at which she can turn her mental state around and fight back against her problems. And now that she recognizes them for the lies they are, she knows in the future that when they come back, she can keep fighting. Hiimmarymary is a masterpiece within the style of media. It's a fantastic piece of work that shows just what can be done with a tiny budget, barely any cast, and the dedication to tell an extremely important story. We haven't even talked about how incredibly well done the visual effects are, or the amount of dedication it takes to make a project that works so well and so cohesively over such a long time. Incredibly huge props to the creator. You've made a series that not only conveys its message beautifully and effectively, but can also potentially give those that watch it the courage to do as Mary does and take charge of their own house, whatever monsters are living in there. The door can open, and there are people out there who want to see you come outside. Thanks for watching today's Panopticon Theatre performance. What do you think? Did I miss anything? What do you want to talk about next? Make sure to sub and join the audience if you want to see more.